Well, hi, everybody. And this is Dear Mama Sal. And we are here on Soul Sunday. And welcome to all the viewers. For those of you who haven't been here before, let me just explain that on Soul Sunday, we bring the tone right down. We slow the pace, we slow the way in which I speak. And the idea is that what we all want to do is just calm down and get ready for the coming week. And so if you're listening to this or trying to watch this while you're driving a car, please don't, because it is directly aimed at actually lowering the speed of the vibration. And so we also add this to a group, a playlist called the Soul Sunday playlist, so that if ever you are having a little bit of trouble going to sleep, that you can just click onto the Soul Sunday playlist and it will help lull you quietly to sleep. I'd like to say hi to Jody, Beth, and Isabel. Welcome. Good to see you here. And for anybody else that might be new, know that we always welcome new viewers. On Soul Sunday, I probably won't be interacting quite as much in terms of solving or helping to solve people's problems, because what we're doing is keeping it on a pretty positive note wherever we can. So, but if on the other hand, if you do have something that you need to discuss, you're always welcome to tell us about it. Jody, I wonder if you can just keep a heads up so that if people come in and try and do what I call chit chat stuff, that they can understand that on Sundays we try to control this a little bit more. And I just, for those of you who know my journey, I am in the process of, I've now downsized, I'm now in the process of selling my home. And this, of course, is filled with change. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but change is not easy for me, especially at my age. And so what I thought I would do is tell you some of the things that have been happening to me in the last 24 hours. Some of you know I had a showing yesterday, and the good news is that they loved it. And they want to come back on Monday and see the downstairs suite. And so that is, very positive news, obviously. The other thing is that my neighbors, who I love very dearly, had said to me, was there any way they could see it? And I said, sure, I'd happily take them through. So I did. And what amazed me was the words that they used. The husband said, the space is heavenly. And I went, really? He said, yes, it's heavenly. That's the feeling you get when you walk in here. It is truly heavenly. And I said, oh, and then a little bit later, he said, it shows such class. Now, that's a word you don't hear very often in North America. And I said, really? He said, yes, that's what you see, is class, that you really do have class. And I went, oh. And then the wife said, it's so elegant. And she wanted to know if I was thinking of selling my dining room table. I told her I'd let her know if I was going to do that. So isn't that interesting? The three words that they used were heavenly, classy, and elegant. And I went, wow, there's not three bad words to hear about your house when you're trying to sell it. And so I was sort of pleased with that. That sort of made me feel quite a bit better. Then I heard when I went to bed last night that they wanted to do the showing at 4:00 tomorrow to show the suite downstairs, which meant I had to disrupt Yvonne, which would, as you know, that's not something I want to do, but I need to show the suite. So on a second showing, that's what I need to do. And then by last night, early this morning, I heard that they wanted to do another showing on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, the agents are coming through. So How many of you can understand this is like Saturday? I had a showing, so I had to be out of the house for a couple of hours. And then tomorrow, there's another showing. Tuesday, there's another showing. And Wednesday, the agents are coming through. Now, how do you all feel about that? What does it feel like to you? Does it feel, how would you feel? And by the way, the times changed a bit in between. um, and I was wondering, I wonder where I get to do my washing now. You know what I mean? It's like all my routines, the things I do on Mondays are about to get a little bit messed up. And the things I normally do on Tuesday are going to get messed up. And the things I normally do on Wednesday are going to get messed up. And when am I going to paint? So I wonder if any of you can feel the stress of that. And then I took a really deep breath and I said, you're trying to sell your house. And you're going to sell your house because you're going to go with the flow. Yes, exactly, Beth. I'm going to go with the flow. That's exactly what my topic is that I need to understand this is all good stuff. I give me these problems, right? Because if I didn't have anybody wanting to see the place, that would be a very difficult problem. And by the way, the fact that so many people want to see it immediately, that probably means that the price might go up a bit. There could be an upside to this. And the other thing is, I have not heard one word from my realtor about I need to change anything, or they didn't think this looked right or whatever. They just said everybody just walks in and goes, "Wow," and I'm going, "Oh, okay." We did it, people. We did it. Lao Tzu said that life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. Let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. I don't know if you saw the thumbnail, the little picture I put up to describe Soul Sunday today. But I thought it was a perfect picture of a river coming down and having to change its course around some big rocks, and then to cascade down and then end up perfectly calm at the bottom. And I think I'm about to hit that, that meandering in and out of the big rocks and the cascade thing. I think I'm in that phase now. But once I've done that one, I will be back in the peace at the bottom. And so I'm going to keep reminding myself to breathe and go with the flow. It doesn't have to happen on the days I want it to. I've given very strict instructions that wherever possible, I do not want to show houses on Friday or Sunday. They got that message. I have other people that I deal with on Fridays and Sundays. Susie Orman said, when you are grateful, when you can see what you have, you unlock blessings to flow in your life. You see, I am so grateful there are people that want to see my house. I am so grateful now that somebody wants to see it for a second time. I don't think you go and see a house for the second time because you don't like it. Makes sense? Grace Geely said, we may not know what each day has in store for us. We could be gone tomorrow. Any minute could truly be our goodbye. But we do have this minute, this time, today, right now. It takes way more effort to shell out hate than it does to allow love to flow. And to allow love to flow freely, that's difficult to say, to allow love to flow freely in our lives. After all, it's what we were born to do. How many of you can feel that? We were born to allow love to flow freely in our lives. I thought that was just so beautiful. And Martin Luther King Jr. said, capitalism does not permit an even flow of economic resources. With this system, a small privileged few are rich beyond conscious, and almost all others are doomed to be poor at the same level. That is the way that the system works. And since we know that the system will not change the rules, we are going to have to change the system. I wonder how many of you do feel that a privileged few have so much. And without going to a communist situation, that, that really the division of wealth could be a little more fair. And the sad thing is that those with a great deal of money pay incredible amounts of money to have accountants make sure they don't pay any taxes. And that is, to me, so sad. I remember somebody saying to me once when I was asking for a quote, they said, well, if you pay me cash under the table, I won't charge you taxes. And I looked at him and I said, if I do not pay taxes, how are the roads going to get built? He said, what? I said, how are the schools going to be funded? How are, and I just went down this litany of different things that I know taxes pay for. And I said, sir, you may cheat the system and the government, and you may feel that you're being very smart in doing that. But I don't. And he said, but they'll save you so much money. And I said, no, it will cause me so much grief. Because I do believe in karma, and if I cheat the system, I will be cheated. I wonder if that makes sense to anybody. Okay. George Harrison of the Beatles said, I'm really quite simple. I paint flowers and I watch them grow. Oh, I plant flowers, not paint them. I plant flowers and I watch them grow. I stay at home and I watch the river flow. And I really do believe that as I downsized my home, I also downsized a lot of the junk in my mind. Do any of you get that feeling as well? That somehow I freed up my mind a little by freeing up my life a lot. Somebody once said that going by my past journey, I am not certain where life will take me, what turns and twists will happen. Nobody knows where they will end up. As life changes direction, I'll flow with it. Beth, I'm pretty sure that with all that's going on with the managers and your various stores, that everybody's in a little bit of flux at the moment. They're not quite sure what's happening and who they're going to be working for, who the new managers are going to be. And I would encourage you to keep telling them that it's okay, it's being sorted out. And you have no need to worry because the universe is unfolding as it should. That we will have change, but it is change we can all cope with because we understand life is about change. Life is not about staying as we are. We are constantly growing and evolving. We are constantly being challenged by new ideas, new thoughts, new ways. And none of us are immune to grief. And everyone who has suffered loss understands that grief changes. But you never wake up one morning and you've moved on. It stays with you. And you know you ebb and flow. I am pretty certain that anybody that's listening to me that's gone through any loss would totally relate to that. You know, it's just a difference. You don't lose the grief. It just changes slightly. And from being this thunderstorm of turmoil and pain, it then eventually quietens down. And it's still there, but it just doesn't do as much damage. When a child can be brought to tears, and not from fear of punishment, but from repentance, he needs no chastisement. When the tears begin to flow from the grief of their conduct, you can be sure that there is an angel nestling inside their heart. I wonder how many of you have felt that. I can remember saying to somebody, and it's difficult for me because I haven't physically had children, although I have been in the lives of many children. One of the things that I always say to parents is, can you remember back to being that age? And when you did something wrong and you were caught out on doing it, can you remember what you did and thought? And it's interesting. They go, yeah, I remember how scared I was. And I said, if you can remember how scared you were, then you will also remember that the need for punishment isn't as great as you think it is. For your child has already punished themselves. So this perhaps is a time for more logic than punishment, for more learning moment than pain, and for more delving into, hey, what caused this? Let's talk about this. You can have a plan, but you have to be flexible. Every day is unpredictable, and you just have to go with the flow. You know, I'm thinking about, Beth, I think about you again, that you have certain times that you need to open up the store and do have things happen in order. But, life seems to constantly be throwing things in your way, like the odd tornado or somebody going sick or whatever. And, it is so necessary on a daily basis for you to go with the flow and just do the best that is humanly possible with the obstacles that you have. I had the joy to have lunch with Doug on yesterday. And for those of you who know Doug, I always cherish the time I spend with him because I don't get to spend very much time. And he was amazing in his gratitude, I would have to say. We were talking about some of the things he had tried in his life that I had been there to support him on. And he said, I really had this dream and I worked so hard and you were with me every step of the way. But he said, I realize now that the dream was to teach me resilience. And the reason everything went wrong in that dream was because I needed to learn different things. And I said, good, honey, I'm glad that you saw that. And he said, but it wasn't a failure. Because I would not be able to do the things I do today had I not learned those lessons back then when I first met you, 18 years ago, whatever it was. And I said, yep. I said, sometimes it takes 5 years or more for us to realize that however difficult this turmoil was, it's there for a really good reason. It's a really good time to learn. And so I don't know what's going on in your life right now, but what I can tell you is that if it's full of turmoil, it is there to teach you something. Bitterness and unforgivingness block the flow of God's blessings in your life and actually hinder your prayers. So today I would ask you to let go of all bitterness. Let go of, who did you wrong, or they shouldn't have done that, or why didn't they do that? Let go of all of that stuff. They just did living their life and doing the best they can, and spend more time concentrating on what you're doing, because we are only responsible for our behavior, not somebody else. Again, Martin Luther King said, law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice. And when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. And Elizabeth Stanton said, the moment we begin to fear the opinions of others and hesitate to tell the truth that is in us, and from the motives of policy are silent, and when we should speak, the divine floods of light and life no longer flow into our souls. It was interesting because one of the things that I was doing was signing all the documents about my house. And that you have to declare if there's anything that you know of that is not right with your house. And I said, yes, there is something that's not right with my house. It's not a current problem, but my plumbing in the house is 30 years old, and it's beginning to show those signs. And it's really interesting because I had no fear of telling that truth. I didn't try to cover it up. I didn't try to pretend it wasn't there. I also said, the roof on my shed leaks, but it doesn't leak very badly if you cover it with a tarp every year. And there were sorts of little things that I know are wrong. You see, I live in a house, not perfection. I don't live in Disneyland. There are things that are not right. And most houses that you buy are going to have things that are not right. And I don't have to tell lies or pretend they're not there or do whatever. I just have to tell my truth and know that my house will sell anyway. But you'll be amazed how many people are going, oh, you don't want to mention that? I said, yes, actually, I do. What you do is your business, but me, I need to say that. How about this one? The time is here for you to stand up for what you know is right. You must judge right from wrong. No longer can you be complacent or go with the flow or wonder what to do. You must decide now which path you want to take, which one you will follow, and which answer you will give. Decide well in advance before the pressure is on what you stand for. How many of you can feel that one? Decide early on what you stand for. I think there's a very famous quote somewhere that says, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And so one of the things that I like to stand for is to be fair. Not only to myself, but also the buyer that's coming in. I think it's okay to be fair. I think it's okay to have a fair price. I had to laugh, and I'm certain some of you will as well, because Yvonne came up this morning. For those of you who don't know, Yvonne is my tenant and friend. And she came up this morning and she said, it's amazing, that you've got this many showings going on already. And I said, yes, that is a great gift, isn't it? And she said, Sal, they're probably going to start bidding up now. And I said, well, they haven't started bidding yet. And she said, no, but they will know that there are that many showings coming already. And that means people will start bidding up. And I said, why are you telling me this? And she said, Sal, please don't tell them they don't have to pay that much. And I said, what? And she said, Sal, please don't tell them that they don't have to pay that much. Because she said, I know there's part of you that will want to do that. Let them bid, Sal. Let them bid. I don't know about the rest of you, but they were so true of me. I could see myself doing it. Well, you don't have to bid that high. And I laughed as I am crying now. I laughed and I said, yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you. So you understand, Yvonne knows me that well. And I thought that was really true. Please pay as much as you would like. And whatever you can afford, I'd be very happy to take your money, is my go with the flow position. I need to stand on the position that I can take more money than it is listed for. Makes sense. If I keep concentrating only on what it's listed for, I may not get that much money. I am prepared to negotiate above that price. Angela Davis said, as a Black woman, my politics and political affiliations are bound up with and flow from participation in my people's struggle for liberation and with the fight of oppressed people all over the world against American imperialism. And Joan Batista said, in a live performance, it is a collaboration with the audience. You rise with the ebb and flow of the crowd's energy. On television, you don't have that. Boy, I want to tell you, I really relate to that. I've spent a lot of time on stage, and I want to tell you that it's the most magical feeling when you are literally interacting with an audience. You're not giving a speech, you're not talking at them, you're talking with them, and you are interacting with them. That is a beautiful feeling, and they enjoy it so much. And I must tell you, I used to as well. And then you go onto television, and what you're looking at is, a bunch of cameras that don't react at all. You can't see a camera smile, or you can't see a camera go, So it's a totally different feeling. And I totally relate to that. Okay, so Travis Bradbury said, chewing gum actually lowers your cortisol levels, the hormone responsible for stress. Did anybody know that? Chewing gum actually lowers your cortisol levels. That is the hormone responsible for stress. But chewing gum doesn't reduce stress. It makes you more alert and improves your performance in memory-oriented tasks. It does so by increasing the flow of blood to your brain and alerting your senses. News to me. How about you guys? How many of you going, where's my gum? And I've just run out. Real estate investing, even on a very small scale, remains a trend and true means of building an individual's cash flow and wealth. One of the things I am seriously considering when I sell my home soon is whether I will take the money that I have and help Yvonne and Wade also buy a home. um, or whether I will take that money and use it to help other people buy homes, in which I will have a share. I will have a partial share of that. And so, to me, it's like nothing makes money like money. And on the other hand, I want to make sure I have enough money to play and enjoy my next at least 10 years, if not more. When I say 10 years, I think if I work well with my body, I should be able to be fairly active and self-sufficient and everything else for the next 10 or 15 years. It might take a little bit of work because my muscles and bones are wanting to slow down at this point, and I'm going, no, you don't get to do that yet. But true love is inexhaustible. The more you give, the more you have. And if you go to draw at true love's fountainhead, the more water you draw, the more abundant the flow. I have spoken with many people who, have had trouble in their relationships. And I always say to them, explain to me what it was like when you first met him or her. Tell me about the first couple of dates, what impressed you, what da da da. And one of the things that I found so fascinating was almost in every case, the reason they were now unhappy in the relationship was for the very reason that they were attracted to the relationship in the first place. If the person that they met was the life and soul of the party at the beginning of the relationship, that was awesome. And suddenly, this many years later, whenever we go out, he just wants to be the center of attention. And I'd say, but wasn't he like that when you met him? Well, yes. And I go, yes, but what? Wasn't that the person you met, the person who liked to be the center of attention? Good point. Or it might be the opposite, that well, he's so quiet and just I have to make all the decisions and da da da. So tell me, when you first met him, was he not the same? And did you not enjoy making the decisions then? But now you blame him for it. And it's really interesting when you talk to people, and I talk to quite a few people in those sort of situations, and it's really interesting where they have to think about that and they go, you're right. And I go, yeah, I've got a feeling I am. So be grateful for what you have, and it's not going to change. You know what I mean? That people are not going to change just because people are pretty set in their ways. They will continue to do things in their own strange way. What true love is being able to accept that and love them even so. Daphne Guinness said, I spend a lot of time upside down. It increases the blood flow to the brain. And therefore, it also helps your creativity. Interesting. The idea of me trying to do a headstand right now is not high on my list of going with the flow things, I must say. Although I have done it this year. This year, I did do a handstand with the help of some people, but I did do one. Flow with whatever may happen and let your mind be free. Stay centered by accepting whatever you are doing. This is the ultimate. Let me do the second part of that again. Stay centered by accepting whatever you are doing. And I would like to say, whatever life is throwing at you, if you can accept it, as I keep hearing about the time changes, or, it's going to be a showing every single day. I keep going, breathe. You remember that what you're doing is selling your home. This isn't a week. This isn't a week of staying stuck in your routine. This is a week has started of selling your home. Go with that flow, not with your flow. And then there's that little kid in me that's going, but when will I get time to paint? And I'm going, anytime you want to, except in these hours. Yeah, but I like to have a full day when I paint because I make so much mess. Well, you may want to rethink that. Do you understand? I need to make sure that I talk to my inner child and stop her from getting a little snit going, because snits are not going to help us sell the house. Simply switching to a healthy plant-based diet can lessen stroke risk by reducing cholesterol and blood pressure, flooding your body with antioxidants, and improving blood flow. I know that Jody will agree with me on this because we have discussed it. One of the things that I have really noticed is my intake of fruits and vegetables has probably doubled in the last year. I now, when I want to eat something, I now am quite happy if I take, a bowl of grilled vegetables. That actually makes me quite happy. I don't sort of think, what am I going to eat? Oh, steak, and then what am I? Well, fries, and then vegetables are the last thing I think about. Yeah, Jody's saying easily double. Yeah, I now think in terms of what am I going to have with my vegetable. It's a very different feeling. And the other thing is, for example, because it's now barbecue season, I'm chopping up a whole lot of vegetables and I'm grilling them all on the barbecue, with some really nice olive oil. And I just have a big bag of pre-cooked vegetables in my fridge. And then every day, every day I take some until the bag is finished. And then, it's just so easy. It's there and it's cooked and it's, I put a little bit of lime juice in there, a little bit of ginger, and it's just like, oh, so tasty. I could easily just sit and eat the vegetables alone, which I sometimes do. Just go with the flow. Follow the yellow brick road. I don't know where it's going to lead me, but I follow it. Everybody has been so concerned. Where are you going to go, Sal? Where are you going to go? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, I really don't know because I really haven't taken a lot of time to look for the next place yet. You see, there's not much point in looking for the next place if I haven't sold this place. Yeah, but everybody does. They go and find the place they want to move to. And I said, yeah, that's what other people do. Yeah, not me. You see, I want to know the house is sold. I want all my energy to be on selling the house, not on stressing out about will the two fit into the right combination. And my energy is on selling the house now. It's not on the next one yet. When all the signatures are on the dotted line, when all the conditions have been removed and I have a solid offer on my house that is binding, then I will go look. And I'm pretty sure that God will find me the right place. And I like this one. It said, just do you. Go with the flow with your life, because that's your experiencing life. You being yourself is doing your purpose. So the more we get out of the mindset of thinking there's a certain way to go about these things, the more free we become. Do you understand? If I get tied up with, well, everybody else goes and finds the next place before they've sold the present one, I'm going, yeah, I know that's what other people. I don't have to do that. Well, what if you end up that, you can't find the next place? I said, then I will wait. But what will you do with all your furniture and da 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 da? I said, I think that's what they have storage for. But it will cost you so much money. And I said, maybe, maybe. And I said, but I will have the money to pay for it because I will have sold my house. Well, where will you live? I said, I think that's what they have hotels for. Or maybe I'll buy another fifth wheel and live in that while the transition is going. And maybe I will stay living in it. I don't know. I'll let you know when I get there. How many of you can feel the freedom in that? I really want that freedom. Maybe I will get a fifth wheel and hitch it up and go travel, for a while. I don't know. I'll see what the world shows me when I am ready. Or maybe I'll just rent somewhere for a while. In a state of grace, the soul is like a well of limpid water, from which flow only streams of the clearest crystal. Its works are pleasing to both God and man, rising from the river of life, beside which is rooted like a tree. I think it's really important that when you realize that you're in a state of grace, that you are incredibly centered and solid. I'd say solid. It's more like a willow, though. The roots are deep, but you can still sway with the wind. And that is what I am practicing at the moment, is just keep solid on my core, but to sway with the wind. I like this. It said it's really important that focusing on things such as spelling, punctuation, grammar, and the handwriting doesn't inhibit the creative flow. When I was at school, there was a huge focus on copying and testing, and it put me off words and stories for years. You know, the point here is that when we concentrate on the perfection, we are not as creative. When everything has to be written beautifully, you will not write as much. You put your mind works faster than your hand. In some of you will know this. How many of you have noticed that your mind thinks faster than your fingers can type? And so, one of the reasons that I loved the computer was that I could type nearly as fast as my mind, and I loved that. And so, one of the things I want you to think about is not to limit your creativity this week. I want you to be really aware of when you are at peace, what your mind is telling you. And is it your creative mind, or is it your little scared kid? I have been amazed that as I calm down my vibration and get into this space that I am working really hard to stay in, when I'm in that space, things are much easier. I can say, oh, really? That needs to happen. Okay. But as I've said, I noticed that I'm getting less nails for some reason on this one hand. So there obviously is a stress level going on, but overall, I'm doing really well. How about this one? Sometimes my life is moving so fast that I forget what's going on. I'm just going with the pace or going with the flow. Like, I don't really stop and try and pay attention to things for too long. How many of you feel that sometimes life is just carrying you along? It's just like, hang on a second, guys. I'm just trying to catch up. And, when you're in the flow, sometimes it goes way faster than you think it will. Somebody said to me, hey, Sal, what are you going to do? If they say, yes, I want the house, but I want you out within a month. I said, I guess I'll be hiring a lot of people. Because do I want to be trying to pack up my whole house and be gone within a month on my own? No. That means I need help. Is it doable? Of course it is. How many of you can, even if you look at your house and say, if somebody told you, I will pay you $1 million if you can leave this house within the next week, how many of you are going, could I get some of that $1 million up front so I can buy the people to help me? Yeah. How many of you know that you could do it? If you had enough people and enough boxes and enough trucks sitting outside, that you could pack up your whole home and be gone within a week. How many of you know that? So the trick is not to think, my gosh, I can't do it on my own. The trick is to think, what can I do? How is this possible? It is possible if I have enough help. But then what stops a lot of us is, but I don't have enough money to get enough help. Well, sometimes people will work now for pay later. Wayne Dyer, who you hear me quote often, said, water is the softest of all things, and yet the most powerful. The ocean patiently allows all things to flow into it. It is always flexible. The Tao is not about grasping, but allowing, like water. Okay? It's about allowing life to happen like water. If we stay very rigid that this is the path that we're on and life is going, try over here a bit. And you're going, no, this is my path. And you go, try over here a bit. I really can remember when I was doing my artwork, there was one process that I was struggling with. And I tried it a couple of times and it just wasn't working for me. And I went, it's okay. I have the rest of my life to be able to perfect this if I want to. Or I don't have to ever touch it again. Because that would be my perfectionist trying to do this particular thing. Maybe I'm not meant to paint that particular process. And and I left it for nearly a year. And then I went back recently and I tried it and guess what? It works. And I'm evolved enough in the painting process that it works quite nicely. Thank you. And I'm going, wow, why wasn't it this easy a year ago? You're going, because I wasn't ready then. I have been told that time doesn't flow in a straight line in my films. It goes around in a circle. Sometimes people comment that the films remind them of a zoo. Maybe that's right. But in Japan, nobody comments on how time passes in my films. So perhaps that is a different way of thinking. Obviously, it's written by a Japanese director. But sometimes we expect life to go straight forward. But how many of you have noticed that so often your life goes in a sort of circle until you've picked up all the bits, and then it sort of moves on to the next cycle, if you like, until you've picked up all the bits, and then it moves on to the next one. Can any of you feel that flow? And if you like, and I want to just draw this so you can see it, but it's like that as you're doing this circle, all sorts of different people, things, experiences are coming in as you're going in the circle, and then you sort of move on to the next circle until you've picked up all the information you need, and then you move on to the next circle. And you keep rotating until you've learnt the lessons and picked up the information, gained the confidence, done whatever. Can any of you feel that in your life? That it wasn't, just linear, straightforward experiences, that things evolved as you did. And I'm always saying that to people, you know, one of the most difficult things to remember is that everybody is doing life at their speed, not at yours. And it's so frustrating when somebody like a Beth who thinks very quickly, does things very quickly, catches on very quickly to concepts. And when she has to deal with people that can't think as fast as she does and don't catch on as quickly as she does, you know, it requires her to learn great patience and great repetition and to understand that you know, you will need to repeat things as many times as it takes for that person to go, oh, now I get it. And how many of us have had that happen where we've been the stupid person and you're going, I know they keep telling me how to do this, but I'm just not getting it. I wonder how many times, for those of you who drive, you started hearing all the things that you needed to do to keep a car on the road and thought to yourself, I will never be able to do this. There is no way that I can drive a car and watch my rear view mirror and, you know, concentrate on the pedals and the indicators and now lights and all. You know, it's just no way am I going to be able to do that all at the same time. And I can remember being in tears because I was quite convinced there was no way my mind would ever do that. And now, you know, as I drive down the road, I have to remind myself what I'm doing because my body automatically does all those things. Isn't that strange? Or how about with computers or a new computer game or whatever? You think, I'm never going to get this. And then suddenly, get it. A guy called VJ something or other that I can't pronounce said, planning bores me. I like to go with the flow. Being whimsical is nice occasionally. It keeps things fresh and there's no expectation. I want to tell you the no expectation is a magical formula. You know, it's so funny because I was thinking about, you know, the showing on Tuesday and then, you know, the agents coming on Wednesday, and I'm going, wow, and the house could sell on Monday. That would change everything, wouldn't it? But it's really important that we have these other showings because it will help with the price. You know, it was just amazing. I'm going, and the house could sell tomorrow. Alan West said that quite simply, federal laws already on the books aimed at stopping the flow of illegal immigration must be enforced. Furthermore, states must be given the resources necessary to confront the problem, which includes strengthening the Border Patrol. You see, I think there is a difference between illegal immigration and asylum seekers. You know that, you know, I see those two lines getting, you know, blended so often. There is a huge difference between regular immigration and people seeking asylum. And I understand that it is possible that some people who are presently seeking asylum are not genuine asylum seekers. That I understand. So I think we got to look at both sides of that problem. To talk about balance is easier than to talk about what's out of balance. And I think any time that you have any disease, and disease meaning lack of ease, you understand, dis-ease, is a lack of flow. It is dis-ease. So anytime there's disease, you are out of balance. Whether it's jealousy, anger, greed, anxiety, fear. How many of you know that those negative emotions eat at your very soul? They actually feel dis-ease. That's what you feel when you are jealous. You feel dis-ease when you are angry. You feel dis-ease when you are ill. You know, but if we can see that everything is in flow and everything is going as it should for whatever reason, then we are in a different space. It is pretty obvious that the displacement of human mind caused by the constant flow of fraudulent advertising is no trivial thing. There is more than one way to conquer a country. How many of you can feel that, with a lot of stuff that we are being fed with our ability to have social media and watch various things, that, it's not just what we're being fed on television now, it's what are you reading online? Is it a reputable source? Is it some fringe group that is indoctrinating you without you even realizing? And so, to me, it's really important that we are aware. And, whenever you feel that, this is like, I don't know if this is true or not, then go check it out on other things. One of the things I love to do is to take a bit of information and I will go and track other major news sources to see if they are also talking about this. If BBC is talking about it as well. If Al Jazeera is talking about it, if CNN is talking about it, if Fox is and MSNBC are talking about it, if everybody is talking about roughly the same story, then it's probably pretty true. But if it's only this one group that's talking about it, maybe they have a hidden agenda. Dr. Dre said that I've gone 79 hours without sleep creating. When the flow is going, it's almost like a high. You don't want it to stop. You don't want to go to sleep for fear of missing someone and something. Have any of you ever been there where you have been on a creative high? I have found myself sometimes when I was writing a book or something or when I've been doing art sometimes, the time just isn't an issue. I'm in a zone. I think that's how I would describe it. I'm in a zone, and time ceases to matter. One of the things that I'm researching at the moment, and I know Jody has done some work on this as well. It's like, do we eat because it's a certain time, or do we eat because our body is saying it's time for you to feed me? One of the things that we were taught was, it's really good to have a good breakfast. But what time are you going to have it? What time does your body actually tell you, I would like breakfast now? You know what I mean? It's not like, oh gosh, it's 9 o'clock. I missed breakfast already. No. I've quite often had breakfast as late as 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And people say to me, that's not good for you. I said, but you didn't ask me what time did I wake up. The judgments are always there, right? People judge really quickly. What do you mean you didn't get up until lunchtime? I go, you didn't ask me what time did I go to bed. Well, who goes to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning? I do. Why? You're retired. You can go to bed anytime. I said, I know. Apparently, that's my more natural clock. Sorry it upsets you. Yeah, Jody understands that. You understand? It's just like people are so tied into these, you will wake up at this time and you will go to work at this time and you will do this at this time. And it's like, no, freedom is not having to do that. Well, you're wasting half the day. Yeah, apparently. Do I care? No. I find that shopping is a bit more of a challenge, though. Yeah. Because the shops don't stay open for the hours that I'm awake necessarily. John Moore said that rocks and waters, etc., are words of God, and so are men. We all flow from one fountain, soul, all expressions of our one love. You know, Mozart said, when I am traveling in a carriage or walking after a good meal, during the night when I cannot sleep, it's on such occasions that the ideas flow best and most abundantly. One of the things you've heard me say before is that when I earned my living by being on stage and being a professional speaker, some of the speeches that, in fact, almost all my speeches were written whilst driving a car. I would literally get in my car and I would drive. And I really didn't care where. I would just drive. And then I would ask my mind, okay, this is the subject. What are we going to do with it? And you know, the incredible, because half your mind is concentrating on the road and the traffic and everything else, it allowed that creative part of your mind to be free. And you know, I could get these incredible things going through. And what I used to do, and I don't know if this makes sense to anybody, but what I used to do was actually keep a tape recorder in my car. And when I felt that creative stuff happening, and today I would obviously, just take my phone and record myself, but I would then just start talking about what was happening in my brain and the ideas I was getting and the visions I was seeing, the pictures that were coming into my mind. And then I'd take all that information home and I put it onto paper. And normally I'd put it onto big, flip chart paper, and then I'd mind map it all back into some order. And I was amazed how many times I wrote a speech in a few hours just by doing that. Harry Truman said that we shall never be able to remove suspicion and fear as potential causes of war until communication is permitted to flow free and open across international boundaries. How many of you know that we only want to understand our side of the argument? We don't really want to understand the other country's position. This is who we are, and, this is what we need you to do. Well, yeah, this is who we are, and we don't want to do that. Well, you have to because, no, we don't. We don't have to. And I think that is part of the problem and part of the joy of diplomacy. I think what diplomacy is, where both people, can talk what they need, and what they can do is they can find some common ground that will bridge, right? And if you can create the bridge and say, okay, fine, we'll slot in here if you'll slot in there, you know what I mean? And that way we will end up with a bridge, somewhere that we can both be happy. Very important. The ideal flow from the human spirit is absolutely unlimited. All you have to do is to tap into that well. I don't like to use the word efficiency. It's creativity. It's a belief that every person counts. I don't know if any of you are aware of the concept that says that we're all connected. If you like, it's like the palm of the hand, and we're all connected to the palm of the hand. And when we feel this connectiveness between ourselves, then we understand that each is an individual, but we all feed into the collective consciousness. And therefore, what comes from this person can flow into this person as well. And it is amazing. One of the reasons that I always like to have meetings when I was in business was because one person's idea, everybody might roll their eyes at. But the interesting thing was that set up a chain of events with, 5 or 6 other ideas came from that were perfectly doable. And so I love brainstorming. I love taking a moment and realizing, anything is possible. We just need to find out how to do it. While therefore your tears flow, let a due proportion of the tears be joy. Yet take a bitter cup with both hands and sit down to your meal. You will soon learn the secret that there is sweetness at the bottom. How many of you have found that sometimes, even when you're grieving, when you are feeling so torn apart with grief, that somewhere in that you find a happiness that was never there before? You're right at the bottom of all that grief. You find this nugget of, you find friends that you didn't realize cared for you that much, or you found neighbors who suddenly come and bring you food that you thought they didn't even care that much, and yet there they are. And so I think in any situation in life, whatever it is that is going on, if we wait it out, we will find there are nuggets of gold everywhere. Thomas Carlyle said, "A laugh, to be joyous, must flow from a joyous heart. For without kindness, there can be no true joy." Without kindness, there can be no true joy. And if we can feel the truth in that, then can we also feel the truth in our greatest evils flow from ourselves? How many of you understand that anger cannot happen without our permission, right? We cannot get angry unless we allow ourselves to get angry. We cannot be frustrated unless we choose not to let go of a thought or an ideal. We cannot be jealous when we are in a place of love. Do you understand? It's like when you look at these things, you go, these are not things other people do to us. They are things that we do. And when we can truly see that, when we can truly see that we blame other people for making us angry, and we blame other people for making us sad, or we blame other people for frustrating us, the truth is we do it unto ourselves. And I think it's so important that we get this. Barbara Kruger said that making art is about objectifying your experience of the world, transforming the flow of the moment into something visual or textual or musical or whatever art creates a kind of commentary. All right, that is the whole thing. When we're feeling angry or frustrated or whatever, it's such a good thing to go and do something that is creative, because creativity will balance out. It'll give you time to think. It will give you time to process, and it will balance your mind out instead of the the vibration of hate or anger or whatever it is that you're feeling. I am sure Edmund Hillary, this is from Edmund Hillary, who went to the top of the earth. Said, I am sure that the feeling of fear, as long as you can take advantage of it and not be rendered useless by it, can make you extend yourself beyond what you would regard as your capacity. If you are afraid, the blood seems to flow freely through the veins. And you really do get a sense of stimulation. Have any of you ever found that there is some sort of, um, you've been a little bit scared, but it made you feel good? And I think it's really important for you to understand that it's good to do things that you fear every now and then. It's good for your adrenaline. It's good. And how many of you know that when you've conquered something that you feared a little, you feel so good about yourself? Alicia Dixon said, I exercise to stay strong, healthy, and stage ready. I never prepare for a red carpet. I just go with the flow. And I think, again, part of me smiles at that because it's a bit like, now that my house is tidy and everything has its place and I put things away where they belong, my house is nearly show ready the whole time. I mess it up a little bit here and there, but quite honestly, it doesn't take me more than an hour to put a couple of things away and dust a little bit and put a couple of things out in place and that they need to be there. And boy, it just like, it doesn't take that long. No. And so I think that my works flow like music. That may be one reason I work in large group versus one picture of one thing. It's the flow of a whole series that counts. And Felix Dennis said, overhead, that's living beyond your means. Overhead will eat you alive if you're not constantly viewed as a parasite to be exterminated. Never mind the bleating of those you employ. Hold out until mutiny is imminent before employing even a single additional member of staff. More startups are wrecked by overstaffing than any other cause, bar failure to monitor cash flow. I think it's really interesting, which is I've been in many companies where they were much more efficient, mean, and lean than they were fat and friendly. Right? They were more creative. They were more able to go with the flow and change with the wind while there weren't that many people there. Surrounding yourself with the great team is really discerning and not pushing or rushing into a certain direction that doesn't seem like aggressive flow is really important. Remember that, not pushing or rushing into a certain direction that doesn't seem like a progressive flow. That is really important. I was thinking, Becca, seeing as you're with us at the moment, one of the things that I know that you wanted to really be in the moment with all that happened to you with your grieving. And when I say be in the moment, it all takes time and process, and it's all so important. I was talking about that circle that you go in and you pick up information and you pick up new strategies, and then you move on to the next circle. And I was thinking with Becca that all these things that have happened to you over the last couple of years, they're all vital for you to be able to experience, so you can pick up this extra information that will help you so much in the next phase of your life. And I know you've been through the heartache of a family breakup, but that's all part of strengthening you, getting you ready for the next phase of your life. And so I look at Erin, that lives with the reality that her father has stage 4 cancer. And, it's like, no, it's not fair, but, it is what it is. And therefore, Erin will learn the things she needs to learn to be able to cope with this, however it ends up. And so if we can all see that these are all vital lessons, Jody, I am pretty certain that when you beat cancer, you were really excited until you found out that what you picked up was lymphedema instead. And even then you probably were very grateful that you were alive, but now I'm twice the size that I was because of the lymphedema. How am I ever going to live with myself at twice the size? And you did. You fought through it, and you did what was necessary. You dealt with your ego. You dealt with the reality of what it was, and then you started to fight your way out of it. And I am so proud of you. I want to tell you that it's amazing the work that you've done. Yes, it's another part of your journey, Jody. And if you think about it, look at the lessons you've learned of patience, of, yes, I do need to do the exercise. And gosh, pity about that, but the exercise actually helps. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, I didn't want to do it. And by the way, changing my diet has helped. I didn't think I would, do this, that, and the other, but you have. Because you wanted to get better. You wanted to improve your day-to-day life. And now you're finding, I keep saying this, that the day that you started doing those leg lifts, I am pretty certain that 5 leg lifts was, all you fought to do. And you were very happy if you managed to do 5. And now today you can do 100. What does that tell you? I find myself, for example, and I don't know if any of the viewers relate to this, but I find myself shuffling a bit now, every now and then. And I consciously have to lengthen my stride and stretch those muscles because I can see that it's easier just to shuffle along. And I'm going, no, you've got to keep those muscles stretched out. So take bigger strides, do what you have to do so the muscles have to work. Otherwise, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. People so often forget that their Instagram is more than just their latest post. Before posting, step back and look at the bigger picture, your flow. I also think that it's true of my home or my life. And I look at it now and I'm going, isn't it interesting that when somebody walked into my home who'd never been inside it before, that those 3 words came out of their mouth? And yet if they had come in a year before I downsized, before I put everything away, before I, got rid of a lot of the memories, would those have been the same words? Do you understand? What they're reacting to is what is the bones, if you like, of my home now. And the bones of my home apparently are pretty heavenly and elegant and classy. Who knew? But, I cluttered it up with all the other things. How about this one for those of you who have faith? The Holy Ghost does not flow through methods, but through men. He does not come on machinery, but on men. He does not anoint plans, but men. Men of prayer. Now, I'm men and women. But you understand, it's like we are the common denominator here. We get the vision. We get the ideas. We get the ideas to build the machine that will do, what other people used to do, and to do it in half the time or 1/10 of the time. You can spend many hours online today watching a cake decorating machine. Have any of you done that? You're going, wow, look at that. That machine can ice that cake in no time at all. Put the base layer on, put all the fancy stuff on it, all the stuff in the middle, done, cake. You're going, wow. I wonder what genius worked out how to do that, how to get a machine to do that. And all the different things that need to happen at the same time. And you're going, how did they ever think that out? I can remember, and I don't know if any of you have done that, if you've ever seen one of those old Singer sewing machines, the treadle, where we used to sort of walk our way as we sewed, doing our sewing. That was really multitasking, wasn't it? Because we used a lot of muscles. I'm doing it now. Used a lot of muscles on a treadle machine. Do any of you remember a treadle sewing machine? And for those of you who don't know what it is, you actually created the needle going up and down by almost like a stepper machine. And you could determine how fast you wanted it to go by how far you rocked this thing. And I'm thinking, whoever worked that out? How did they work out the bobbin? Right? How that had to work. I sit in awe of people that can do that. Now, me, I've got, rare gift of doing some other things, but I don't think I could have designed the thing that created a sewing stitch. How many hours, years did it take them? I wonder. Esther Butterfield said, I don't like to set myself goals because you might fail to reach them. I just go with the flow. I have to say that somebody once said to me, is it true that the only truly, really happy people are insane? When I say that, because when you have lost sanity, you don't really, you're not really aware of people judging you. You're just living in your own little world. And you're just doing the things you want to do. And it's sort of like, wow. And, there's that part of me that goes, there is some joy in that. There is some safety in that in some ways. And so, to me, as I look at my life today, as to where even when I was a year ago, I go, I have thrown away so much stress. And I was talking to Doug when I was at lunch with him, and I said, look at this, Doug. My resting heart rate is at 66. And he said, what? I said, my resting heart rate is at 66 at the moment. And I took my watch off. And you understand, Doug is in his mid-30s, and he's incredibly fit and really doesn't eat any of the wrong stuff at all. And I said, let's see what yours is. And he said, mine's 77. And I said, yeah. He said, how did you do that? How did you at your age get your resting heart rate lower than mine? And I said, I threw away a lot of stuff, Doug. I got rid of a lot of people that caused me stress in my life. And I got rid of a lot of things that caused me stress. I stopped doing things because other people wanted me to. I started doing them because I wanted to. So, Doug, what I did was I got rid of the things that pushed my resting heart rate up. And I said it's amazingly simple once you get the hang of it. How about this one? I'm going to introduce you to a revolutionary thought. You can go slower and get there more quickly. And that's to do with flow. As soon as you made it 2 lanes and brought in the 70 mile per hour and the 50 mile per hour, you got there quicker. It meant the flow of traffic was better. There were less accidents, less deaths. I think it's an important factor. How many of you can remember when they brought in the highways, you all thought, oh gosh, that's it. We're all going to kill each other now because we're going too fast. I can remember when they first brought out the big Boeing 747. And I'm going, that's amazing. We can carry twice as many people in half the time. And then there was the first accident. And I realized that with the joy of being able to transport twice as many people in half the time, you also could lose many more people in half the time. But I still look at it and go, it's still an incredibly safe means of transport. If you compare it with motor car or any other mode of transport, the airplane is still one of the most safe ways to travel. This is how memories are made, by going with the flow. How many of you can remember you were on a trip somewhere and suddenly you decided, well, why don't we stop here and get some food? And because you stopped there, something really strange happened. And that was the memory, right? That was the whole memory of the trip, was this little thing that happened in this strange place where you suddenly decided to stop to get a drink or to fill up with gas or do whatever. I think a lot about the trip that I did to go and meet Erin. And, we stopped in this one town, for want of a better word, to pick up gas. And I want to tell you, it was the most amazing town I've ever been in. For those of you who are old enough to remember the movie Deliverance, you really expected the dueling banjos to start playing because that's what it felt like. It was scary. And the people looked scary. And there were so few of them, it was just like a little outpost in the middle of nowhere in Death Valley. And it apparently has the biggest thermometer in the world. And it was reading over 100 degrees Fahrenheit at the time. You're going, I wouldn't want to get caught here. And, there was a sort of local store, and that scared the life out of you. And right next to it was the taxidermy store. You're going, that's like, I'm hoping the meat from the taxidermist is not traveling to the other store. It was just like, there were so many things about it that were so scary. And yet when I think about it, it was a major part of the trip, was this visiting this particular town. And then, very soon after that, we ended up in a place where the tumbleweeds were literally, rolling down the road. And you're going, I thought they only did that on the westerns. I didn't know it actually happened. And then we were in a little community where every corner you took, there was a memorial, like a cross and flowers and everything else, like in every corner. And you're going, this is an unusual town. Well, it wasn't a town. It was like a little village outpost again. But, it was like everywhere you turned, it was just like, boy, they write off people a lot here. And it was just like, but what a memory. I've never forgotten it. And so sometimes we need to be off the beaten track, off the obvious road, to get the memories in our life. And I wonder how many of you can think of times when the world was telling you go right and you decided to go left. And because of that, you had a most incredible experience. And I want you not to forget that. You will still get there. If you are meant to be over here eventually, you can afford to go left occasionally, and then end up taking a different route, the scenic route, if you like, to still get there. And I keep reminding people of that. They're saying, yes, but what if I make a wrong choice? And I go, there is no wrong choice. What if you totally got that there is no wrong choice? It is just your journey. Your journey might take a little bit longer because of this choice, but you're still going to be on track. Just a different route, if you like. And so, as I leave you today, I want you to really concentrate on this. Go with the flow this week. Right? Don't battle upstream all the time. But stay true to the core. You remember what I said about that? Don't just flitter in the wind and not have a center point. Know what you stand for, or else you will fall for anything, right? Know what you stand for. Know what the guidelines are, but within that, be prepared to be fairly flexible as long as those basic guidelines. One of the things I always used to teach my staff was, okay, this is what I want done. I'd like it done ethically and I'd like it done legally. But other than that, how you do it is up to you. Does that make sense? I didn't micromanage it and say, well, you have to do this and do this and do this. I used to say, this is what I want done. These are the guidelines to it. How you do it is up to you. And because of that, I had the most incredibly talented and creative team of people. I can remember they came to me and said, Sal, can we change the layout of our department? And I said, sure, of course you can. If it makes you feel happier and you think you'll be more productive or whatever, you go right ahead. Just plan it all out first and let me see the plan. And then, just let me see the final, plan before you go ahead and do it. And, it didn't take them very long. And they suddenly brought in the final plan. And I went, that's beautiful. That's a really clever use of the space. I'd like to make one suggestion. And they went, oh, what's that? And I said, you might want to take the desks away from the emergency fire exit. What? I said, well, these two desks you've got here, this one here and this one over there, and they're blocking the fire exit. I got a feeling the fire department could have a bit of and they went, we never noticed that. I said, I know, that's why I have my job and you have yours. Get those two desks moved into somewhere else and go for it. And I want to tell you, they just went back and changed those desks around and boom, by the close of business that week, we had the whole lot turned around. So go with the flow a bit more. Whatever's being sent to frustrate you, don't let it frustrate you. Just go, it is part of the flow. Thank you all for being here. Have an absolutely wonderful week. Don't let people make you angry. Don't be angry. Don't be frustrated. Don't be jealous. Don't be sad if you don't want to be. It is okay to just be. And it is okay not to cry. And it is okay not to be angry. And it's okay to just be happy and grateful for who you are and what you have and what you will achieve. I am now off to go and cook dinner, and I will see you all hopefully on Friday. Who knows? I might have sold my house. How exciting is that? This is Dear Mama Sal saying thank you and bye-bye for now.